my cousins in Texas sent us a photo of them wearing T-shirts that said something about, I survived the 110 week. Dang, that's crazy.
Supposedly really hot out west, so all you listeners out there melting away, I'm sorry.
Eco-unfriendly AC going. Sorry about that. Yeah, apparently the U.S. and many, many other Olympic teams are sending the air conditioning over to France. Yeah, they've got a big old ban, like, no air conditioners. All the people are like, you kidding me? Yeah, in the summer, in the heat? So a lot of teams, a lot of countries are sending AC units directly to France.
Oh, the Olympics. Does that even still matter?
It does for me because I just filmed a big TV spot that we're going to be running locally.
Ads. Okay,
for
sure.
an ad during the opening ceremonies and stuff. So I'm hoping that people like the Olympics. So not to make fun of French, but like,
but why not?
Here we go. Rowan Atkinson appeared for the Olympics in London, and he did his whole like Mr. Bean, playing the piano kind of a thing. It was fun. Are they going to do likewise? Are they going to like resurrect Marseille Marceau, or what are they going to do? There going to be a bunch of mimes at the Olympics?
Probably. They're probably passing out the makeup as you go in, and just have the whole audience.
Yeah, everybody feels like they're trapped inside of a box,
right?
And then they pretend to go up elevators in order to find their seats.
Going against the wind.
Yeah, I'm pulling on this rope.
You're listening to, and this is why I love comics.
Andy and Mike.
We got rotisserie chicken going next to me, man.
Yeah. And welcome to another episode of And This Is Why I Love Comics. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
Thanks for continuing to listen to us. We're the podcast of grumpy old men. We talk about comics and life and mimes and clowns.
And we like it that way.
And that's it. That's all we talk about. Mimes. We're the Mime and Clown podcast.
Yeah.
Mime and Clown podcast. It's hard to say.
Well, yeah, like if I were a mime on this podcast, it would make for an interesting listen.
Right. Yeah, my co-host is a mime. Just trust me on
that. Yeah, special guest. We brought in a mime as our third guest today's episode.
Next episode, the mime returns.
Yeah, just an hour and a half of just absolute silence. It's like, man, that was riveting.
Just one of us talking to nobody.
Yeah. That's probably something else.
Growing up, did mimes creep you out?
I don't know. See, I never had the issue with clowns, but I will say there's something just unnerving about mimes. Because at least clowns, you can kind of like, because of all the like the outrageousness of them, I didn't feel as, and they were trying to be jolly and so forth. They always had kind of smiles. Mimes were always dour. I always saw mimes as like their faces always had a frown, and it was like they just seemed down. And I remember watching the Muppet Show as they had mime troupe on there as their special guest, and they all had these very moldable clay masks on.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool. I remember that.
I got freaked out. It's like the freaking Muppets, which are already, monsters of various kinds, but you kind of but I just remember them like pulling on their facial features, and they were yanking their eyes were sagging way down, and then they would look surprised. So they would dig their fingers into their eye sockets and just spray them open. And you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this?
Oh, I didn't remember any of that until you said that, but yeah,
see,
I love that.
You remember
that's great.
It's called trauma. That's why you remember it once I mentioned
totally
it.
Repressed minds.
Tried to block that out. You're going to wake up in a few hours going like, ah!
We grew up with clowns. Bozo the Clown.
Bozo the Clown, yeah. You had the whole Saturday morning. We had a local one in Grand Rapids. That's right.
Yeah. So, I think, current culture everybody hates clowns. They don't get the recognition that they used to, or the fanfare, but we grew up with it.
Yeah.
And we weren't scared one bit, and then they turned creepy as we got older.
Would you consider the local bozo a superhero? Because like by day he was a mild-mannered reporter for the Channel 13 news.
Right. Was he with a weatherman, right?
I think so. Or yeah, weatherman or anchor or one of the two, but he was part of the news crew.
Dick
And
Richards.
then, yeah. And it's like, I mean, even that sounds like a Stan Lee name. The dude's name was Dick Richards. Like his parents legitimately said, like, you know what? I like that Richard name. Let's just call him Richard Richards.
Richard, yeah.
But we'll just call him Dick for short.
Richard squared.
Yeah, to the power of 2. On the weekends, he put a costume on, put on a mask, and took on a whole nother persona. So isn't that what kind of defines a superhero?
What's better, clowns or mimes?
I'm still in the camp clown.
Okay.
I've seen enough Mystery Science Theater that I feel as if their clown shorts are always the best.
Well, that's
true. Whole lot of mime shorts.
No, I'll pick a mime every time.
They're
trying to bond with our French fans.
Croissant.
He likes the mime.
We're the Donnie and Marie of the podcast. A little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll. I like
a little bit of clown, a little bit of mime.
A little bit of mime. Oh crap! But that was a terrible show.
I'm not breaking out into song on that. So
no, it's. I know it's on the cusp though. You're about ready to.
We'll have to record that another time.
No, I'm a little bit clown.
And I'm a little bit mime. See, it writes itself right there.
We're ready to go. Out of the gates. Yeah. I mean, that would be like if there was like a superhero duo called Clown and Mime.
Well, the problem is, the clown would have a speaking part and then the mime would just be silent the whole time.
Didn't you hear me call? Look over here. He's trying to mime like the danger's this way. Look out. He's trying to mime like an explosion.
Right.
And the hero's like, what? Can't what? The clown just is like, screw it.
It's like Batman and Robin, the clown goes through so many mimes,
Yeah.
They're always dying because he never hears them.
They just got a number on it, like thing 1 and thing 2. It's just like, oh, you're number 44.
Right.
Like, what does this 44 mean? Like the clown's super powered, be like really loud horn. The ooga horn. Right. And then the mime could just legitimately project their powers. Like it's really that they're truly in a box, and then they can actually put a force field box around somebody else so that they're trapped inside of the same invisible box.
I think we need to start writing that.
Yep. Yeah, somebody's going to take it and run with it. That's
yeah, probably. Just include our name somewhere in the title.
Yeah, just a little tip of the hat would be fine. The Adventures of Clown and Mime. Just super generic, bland title.
Right.
It would still draw interest, like a super indie, underground comic.
A little black and white comic, sure.
Yeah.
Get it, Mimes, black and white.
Doop.
So if this is your first episode,
good luck.
Good luck. Exactly. But if it's probably not, this is probably, you're at least your third, I would think, by now.
Yeah, that's what they usually say. It's like, you got to try something 3 times before you can really say you hate it.
Right, yeah. We do have something we plan to talk about.
I have show notes, and it's basically one Post-it note.
I used to do that, but then I never ever got to it. So.
You got a series of Post-it notes. It's like, oh, it's like
next time
covered in teardrops. I'll never get to these.
I was on the Facebook in a couple different comic book groups, and this one happened to be a Justice Society of America group, and I was commenting on how much I liked that group, and there was, it was a variety of different discussions, And one of the also members, he posted some stuff about Big Bang Comics, and we got to talking, and apparently he is the writer for several of their stories that are coming out in the last year or so. His name is Pedro Angosto. He's from Spain, from what I understand, and really nice guy. He sent some files to look at and a couple of their stories that they're coming out. He sent us 4 different issues. Big Bang Adventures was one of them. Do you remember, Mike, Big Bang Comics from the 90s?
90s. Oh yeah. Yeah. They, I remember them well because it just had that classic look. Well, everybody else was going the direction of Image Comics and the, cross hatching and the, super ultra modern look and the take on everything. Big Bang went the opposite direction and said, let's do a U-turn and take a look at vintage approaches to comics.
Yeah, it was kind of, we've talked about 1963 before from Image. It's very, very 1963 to me, from their kind of, tribute to old comics. It's interesting because you mentioned Image, and Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld both have had kind of ties to these guys, especially the creator of Big Bang Comics, Gary Carlson. He used to do Megaton.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Larson did a few, and Rob Liefeld did some of his first work there. When Image went that way, Gary Carlson must have chose just, old tributes to classic heroes, icon, the archetypes. Those archetypes are there for a reason.
There's comfort. It's just like why, when you think of American food, why do you think of a hamburger and fries? There's a lot of other things out there, but it's always, most restaurants are hamburger and fries. So it's comfort. It's the known. In a lot of ways, you may not like the current take on that character or that character type, and you want something different, refreshing, or alternate. And unfortunately, with like DC, they really can't do anything with their characters that would be either one, shocking, or changing things up too drastically, because that's their bread and butter. But if you were a smaller publisher, you could get away with making more drastic alterations. I will and always will continue to be a fan of Alan Moore's run on Supreme. Continue to try to find random issues to pick up for you to kind of fill in your gap as well. But Chris Sprouse's art obviously always will be fantastic. And he didn't do all of them. I think that Ian Churchill had done quite a few issues at the beginning, and later on Chris Sprouse came in. And then they would do these throwback sections, like the Silver Age era of Supreme, and that had that Rick Veitch, again, pronunciation issues, but you get the gist of it. He would tackle the Silver Age era. So it wasn't always Chris Sprouse's art, but then when they would go like, do you remember when? And dooley, we're back in the past. And it had his art, and it was a great tribute, to that era. He absolutely knocked out of the park with that series. And that's one of the few, and I know producer Tony asked whether or not we go back to old issues, and do we tap into like what series do you read over and over again? And that I'd say the Supreme run.
Well, that's, as I was reading these that he sent us, I thought, this is really in our wheelhouse. This is stuff we've talked about in the past on the podcast, and Tom Strong was the big spotlight on this. Is we like classic stories. We both fell in love with Tom Strong and Chris Sprouse. The artwork, and all the guest artists. It was just some great old time stories done in a modern way. And I'm so glad that he sent these books to us, because it made me go back to those Tom Strongs and go, this is what I like about it. It's very, like you said, comfort. It's familiar. People try different takes on it and all that, so they're not regurgitating the same story. But a lot of it is classic Americana characters, not what you get from today's comic world. Everybody wants to darker and pushing boundaries and buttons, and there's a place and a time for that. There is something about simple tales, classic art styles. This reminded me of the Tom Strong stuff. This also reminded me of, as I was reading it, I'm going, this is very familiar. It's stuff we would have wrote, in our 20s and 30s. Like this reminds me of your family's universe of characters.
True.
Like I'm not going to name them all or anything like that, but this, your brothers and your dad and stuff had this, universe of characters and of these storylines and all these ideas and stuff. And this kind of reminded me of that and stuff we would do messing around with characters.
Oh, yeah.
Just, different takes, trying to twist the character a little bit and make it our own. This reminded me a lot of things we would do and have done in the past on our stories, just to make these archetypes, familiarize them for our stories, but not necessarily, the typical Superman.
Yeah. You've got the elements of it, but you're not necessarily beholden to, like, he was jettisoned to a planet, from his dying planet, but
Right.
it's like, no, this is what was the term, Ubermensch or something like that, about the Superman, this ultimate human character. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty much, that's the only takeaway. That's the similarities, super strong and vulnerable. Yep. That's pretty, maybe flies. That's what I think with Invincible, the whole Omni-Man character, and why that archetype works and why people resonate with Omni-Man is that it takes the Superman and flips it.
Right.
He's destined to destroy the earth and not, for all truth, justice, and the American way. Omni-Man's the opposite. He's got the same powers, the same levels and so forth, comes from outer space, but just takes another take on it. And it's always kind of nice to see an alternate version of these characters, and where, like I said, they can morph the characters where DC, with their archetypes cannot. There's even John Byrne in hindsight said he would never have done the Superman in the 80s. And it's like, oh,
well, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
I love that Superman.
Yeah, exactly. But, he took a lot of heat for it. People were like, no, you just threw away at that time, 40, 50 years of, comic book history. Yeah, he had just turned 50. So 50 years of comic book history with you, revamping, he's got an indestructible cape and it stretches. And then the show, John Byrne's showing him that his cape is ripped up. It's like, blasphemy.
How did he do that?
Yeah, and then the editorial issues and so forth. But yeah, it's just DC's got to play it safe. And like, with Big Bang Comics and like Supreme, they don't have to. And, if they didn't like a character, that character could die and stay dead.
Yeah. I mean, it really does open up the possibilities. You could take their Batman type character, who is the Night Watchman.
Yeah.
And you could kill him off. I mean, not that you would want to kill your main character off, and have an entire line, based on what happens after, and then that would be your next decade of stories. And DC couldn't do that.
Yeah, they tried with what's it called? Future State. That's what it was. Future State, where Lucius Fox's son became Batman, and some lady from Brazil was Wonder Woman, and like an attempt, wasn't successful.
Nope.
But they at least made the attempt to say, like, what would we do? And I know Marvel attempted to do theirs with like Generation Next. I don't know if you remember that series.
Yeah.
Where they kind of said it like, this is 20 years into Marvel's future, 30 years ago. So
Spider-Girl and
J2,
A-Next,
like Generation
whatever.
Juggernaut. Yeah, A-Next, and a few other ones were part of it. And then they also did, the 2099 Excelsior, that line of comics. So they've tried to do their own workarounds to kind of say, like, we're not going to mess with current continuity, but we can say that in the future, though, these are going to be the versions.
This is the stuff we've been reading on the podcast. Irredeemable. This is very irredeemable.
Oh, yeah.
Centric. Not quite, but
And not as dark and not, but, where that one, was it the Plutonian?
Yeah, Plutonian.
And here it's Ultiman. Ultiman in this case is trying to salvage things, whereas the Plutonian was like, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to take care of things on my own. And kind of did like what Omni-Man did in Invincible.
Right.
He just took everybody out, or was attempting to.
Yeah. So, this was a fun read. You and I discussed what books we should focus on, and I think I told you the Night Watchman one. And
I actually read the Big Bang Adventures number 26, which was the Round Table of America.
Yes. Okay.
And then the other one I read was so this is Dr. Weird, Master of the Macabre, issue 1 that we received. So that, Dr. Weird, what I liked about Dr. Weird was that this was obviously a pre-existing character as well, trying to reimagine definitely for today's audience.
Yeah, that's a character they actually bought or were given, that already existed.
Yeah, acquired the rights to this character. Yeah. So this one, and oddly enough, I didn't realize but this was a Jim Starlin.
Yeah, there's that name again, Jim Starlin.
Yeah, and then and if I recall, wasn't there something about George R.R. Martin had some sort of connection to this as well? So here's a Game of Thrones. So it all comes back full circle.
That's right. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's all
we all plan that.
And it's interesting, because like in this particular Dr. Weird, I'm kind of jumping a little bit, sorry, but in this they had a reprint from 1970 of like star-studded comics with Dr. Weird, the origin of Dr. Weird. And it's got Jim Starlin's art. He must have been like, 5 when he did this? I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But there's a lot of that's Jim Starlin. There is some his framing, his storytelling, it wasn't necessarily as refined as he would get during the whole Captain Marvel and the Warlock and Infinity, Thanos's era. There's a lot that you can see those characters in here in his early art.
Yeah, the Dr. Weird stuff. He sent us a Dr. Weird story, the Big Bang Adventures Round Table of America story. He sent us a Night Watchman story.
Yep.
He sent
National Guardians.
Yes. And each one kind of had a different feel to it. Certainly the Dr. Weird was the farthest out there. Say he's Dr. Fate meets Spectre meets
Doctor Strange
or anything. But he's similar. You kind of have to categorize him into comic readers today would know. Those are some of my favorite characters, not Doctor Strange, but Dr. Fate and the Spectre. Reading the Dr. Weird, now there was a current origin, like retelling that Pedro, who had sent it digital copies, he wrote. And then, like you said, they had the original origin of it. And I love the origin take on this where, and we're going to spoil it a little bit, not really a whole lot, the character's been around quite a bit, where Dr. Weird time traveled back to before he was born, and then he was killed almost immediately in the past, and so that made him a ghost that didn't exist, and he became like a mystical and invulnerable, kind of a dead man as well. I love that idea. I never had heard of it, even with similar characters and stuff. I think that was a pretty original origin to have, and so I was right away. I was going like, oh, that's really creative. I love that idea, and the story flowed pretty well. The reinterpretation was good. The art style I enjoyed. It wasn't too many lines, but they tried to have a more modern and yet reminisce about the Silver Age, and they tried to combine it all together, and I think it worked for them pretty well. What do you think about the art?
Yeah, as far as the art goes on this one, it was very, very consistent. Because I've seen a lot of artists that they'll draw somebody from a certain angle, and they look very different when they turn their head. They look different when they see them at this other angle. This art is like the Dr. Weird character had the same kind of like elongated face throughout and from every angle. So it's just terribly, terribly consistent. Well done. Even like the drawing of this cat character that's kind of like familiar, that's walking him through the realms of the dead kind of a concept, is drawn consistently. And a lot of people are like, I'm really good at drawing the heroes, or I'm really good at drawing backgrounds, but I suck at animals, that kind of a thing. And it just does a really good job at at the whole thing. The characters are very identifiable. I joke about John Byrne in some capacities, but it's like there was a meme before memes where it had like John Byrne's heads. And it's like, that's Johnny Storm, that's Steve Rogers, that's Hank Pym, and it was the same face. This art here is very, very well polished, very well thought through. The storytelling is great. The story itself is really straightforward. It marches you right through this whole process. One of the things I was digging about it, and especially because it was in digital format, was the explanation of his costume. And then on the right page, it showed him like, okay, I'm getting my gold coating. Okay, now I got my cape. Now I got my emblems and gloves and boots, and now I got my belt. I'm ready for action. It was just a step-by-step process as to like, what did he do? How did that come about? And kind of like, even down to like Batman's like, I need an omen. I need something that's going to strike fear in the hearts of the criminal. And then the bat flies in. Well, in this case, because there's a lot of Lovecraftian connections here, that night gaunts are a creature that he encounters, and then that's what explains the emblem on his chest. So it was really, well done. And as far as an origin story goes, it was well paced. You kind of feel like, okay, I got a good understanding of who this character is, and I'm ready to, dive into more stories with him, because solid all the way through. And I did appreciate the fact that not only did it have this solid origin story, so you kind of got a sense of, okay, and what's going to happen in the world, what his scope of his powers are, the castle, his setting. It sets up the entire, kind of premise, and, this like infinite, almost TARDIS from Doctor Who, infinite interior of a castle, and he wanders around, and even in his own quote unquote headquarters, a lot of adventures could, take place. And then it's got a lot of, let's say, Steve Ditko-ish kind of like realms of the weird that they can wander through as well. So it's just a great introduction.
Yeah, it's a nice setup.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Fate's tower,
kind of exactly.
Dr. Weird. It's first printing May 2024, so it's like brand new, and it was written by Pedro Angosta. Front cover art was Joan Vivez. Joan did the colors as well. Carlos Rodriguez, some of the art. Like the dedications and stuff that they did for this book. Jim Starlin, George R. Martin, Howard Keltner. I love that storytelling. That was really good. And,
it was kind
slightly bigger pages.
Yeah, it was a 2-page spread. There was remember like in Alan Moore's Watchmen, like the last panel of a page would echo the first panel of the next page. Kind of have that, storytelling that kind of carries over from page to page, a deliberate thought about how to pace and, tell the full story.
Yeah, the original origin, and it had a story by Gary Carlson as well. For Dr. Weird. So it was a nice historical, like for a first issue of a character that's been around for quite a while. They really touched upon the other eras that he belonged to and the different creators. They had a bunch of pinups after that from various artists, which, I mean, some of them are great. Nice little tribute. You can tell they really love these characters. Like they are putting their best work out. They're not treating this as an audition for, I'll get some work from Marvel, or this is what they want to be doing, and they're putting it all out there, and it just really shows.
I was going to say something else about that original artist for the origin story, the opening story of the book. There was Bart Sears. Do you remember him?
Oh, sure.
There's to
Justice
me,
League Europe.
Yeah, international, and that and then he would do like the how to draw comics in the Wizard magazine.
Oh yeah, yep.
Reminded me a lot of some of this Bart Sears in the heavier line work, very rounded, figure drawing. So it was one of those things where it's like, wow, it kind of reminds me of something. And then it hit me like, oh, that's kind of Bart Sears like. Not necessarily a clone, but there's just some things that have telltale markings of Bart Sears.
Yeah, I never noticed that till you said that, but yeah, Bart Sears certainly influenced.
Like you said, the pinups are great. Kind of going through, and there's some that it tells a story. I don't know if you're a Chris Van Allsburg fan, but there was a book he had done, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's like the Adventures of something. I can't remember. But the same guy who created the Jumanji and Polar Express did a book series where it was just on one panel was a single illustration, and then across from it was like an excerpt, like just like a single sentence or two that would explain some sort of weirdness that you were seeing on the page. Like there was like a lump in the carpet, and it's like, and for the second time, the lump moved. And I was like, oh crap, what is that? And that's all it was. The whole book was just these little excerpts like that. So like you kind of filled in this story yourself and expanded on it. And the same thing kind of can be said about these pinups. In many cases, is like, I wonder what the story was for this pinup. I wonder what triggered this one. It's a lot of fun to have all this extra material in it, because not only was there the origin story at the beginning, there was an adventure story in the middle, tons of pinups, tons of crossover references, and then they had the Jim Starlin classic story to close.
It was like 60 pages or something.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy duty.
And even, the price, it was what, $7.99 for 60 pages? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, it's like, well, it might be a chunk of change, but that's basically 3 comics. And with a comic today being $4.99, $5.99, whatever, it's like, this isn't that far off, and you get this digital quality and a series of books, a series of stories in it. And I think it's this for issue 1. I don't know if issue 2 goes down in price from there, because maybe they don't include as much. But
yeah, the other book that we were going to go over, Roundtable of America, it's their Justice League type story. And they introduce a lot of, really reintroduces, but they go out of their way to make it so you don't have to know what really went on before. They have panels that explain the past and what has happened, because it's all continuity. They've kept the continuity even from the 90s until now. They might have changed a little bit. This was kind of it was Big Bang Adventures 26, The Return of the Roundtable of America. And that was, the front cover was Luis Lorente. It was written by Pedro Angosta, pencils by Luis Lorente again. He did the inks, and edited by Gary Carlson. But, it has all the iconic characters. Some of these characters, had equivalent, DC and Marvel characters. And some of them, to me, there wasn't one. Like, they had a character named Hummingbird, and you could tag it to where kind of similar to, but I did like that they dedicated the book to Grant Morrison, who we also like very much on this podcast. So they have some good taste there over at Big Bang.
Yeah, and then also that dedication also talks about Gardner Fox, who wrote several. So it's kind of like, well, early Justice League to more recent Justice League authors. So nice, again, tip of the hat, a nice little acknowledgement there. But yeah, it was a little, I wouldn't call it like a game within the thing, but I was like, is this more Superman? Is this guy more who? I was like, John Cosmos. Is that more Adam Strange or more Flash Gordon? Because there's all these characters kind of played off of, again, the archetypes probably more so than Dr. Weird would have. While there were elements that Dr. Weird, I felt like Dr. Weird still had enough to kind of be truly standalone and not necessarily reflective of a direct allegory to this other character, where like Ultiman, has the Fortress of Solitude, has robot versions of himself, has the giant trophy room.
Again, very Supreme-like, very,
Exactly.
It almost honors Silver Age Superman, by doing all this stuff.
Yeah. It's like, what would we do if we had keys to the kingdom and we're able to modify these characters? It was interesting because the Night Watchman that's in the Round Table book versus the Night Watchman that was in its standalone are very distinctly different.
Yes.
That we
that's what I thought too. It's like, who is this guy?
Yeah, not quite following the Silver Age. Not that it's, like, oh, what have they done? But it's definitely like, oh, that's like, again, you can modify. You can, you have you're not tied like DC is. You can, swing how you approach the character as dramatically as you want. It's up to you. You can. In this case, it went like super gritty and very much a, Frank Miller, Jim Lee's Death Blow. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Kind of had that kind of a feel to it. It's like, wow, that's very distinctly different than the Silver Age, Night Watchman. But yeah, this is great. I loved, going back to the, Round Table of America. It was fun to see their take on these characters, and their Wonder Woman allegory was still, Venus was still tied to mythological, origins, roots. I liked this story. I liked the characters, and the art was pretty solid. There was a little inconsistencies here and there in the artwork, but not where it was detrimental,
Yeah.
Because there are some areas where it's very cartoony, and then other areas where it's very grim, classic comic book art. And I don't know if that was just because there's different inkers, that switch things up, but a lot of times when you see Venus, her eyes and so forth were done in a very cartoon fashion, her face and her facial expressions especially. But then there's other areas where it was like, oh, no, she's done very faithful to, the look of a more serious, comic art without the cartoonized feel to it. So there's a little bit more inconsistencies in the art here, not detrimental, but it's just a little less.
A little different.
So I was fully anticipating more Silver Age artwork, as if like, when Ron Frenz was doing Thor, there were clear moments of like, that's John Buscema, that's Jack Kirby, very distinctly. But then when Ron Frenz moved over to like Spider-Girl, then he didn't echo those art styles. So I was kind of anticipating when I got this book going like, ooh, this is going to look like Silver Age. Like, I wonder if this is going to be like Don Heck or who's going to be doing what kind of feel will this have? And it was like, it had some elements of Silver Age, but it also had very much some current art.
This is more modern art.
Yeah.
What I really liked was the coming soon in 2024 Dr. Weird versus Nyarlathotep, the Lovecraft County ad. I can't wait for that book. But let's talk about more of this issue next time. We'll make this a Big Bang two-parter. Let's go into more of the several of the comics and some of the background on Big Bang. We'll do that next time on the podcast. If you want to email us at andthisiswhyilovecomics@gmail.com. Our webpage is andthisiswhyilovecomicspodcast.buzzsprout.com. You can join us on the X or the Twitter at andthisiswhyal1. We're on the Facebook. Check us out there. We have a schedule of upcoming events, and This Is Why I Love Comics podcast. We're on the TikTok. Join us there, Why I Love Comics podcast. You can support the show, become a Patreon member. You'll get early release schedule and some exclusive content. Thanks to all the supporters of our show and the friends. We couldn't do it without you. Check out Jamie's YouTube show. He's at J Hood Comics on YouTube.
Thanks to producer Tony, producer Katie, co-host Matt 2.0, Kevin, Jamie, Matt 10.0, and Nick. And you can hear more about Big Bang Comics next episode or check them out on indieplanet.com. And we'll leave you with some Thunder Chicken, and we'll see you next time.
And your supple chest is on me, and your skin melts around me, and your face is in between age and intimacy. And I would give.
Yeah, I might have to call some sort of medical professional to come out.